Welcome back for our final community of learning video, this time with the message of turning self-awareness into action. We've done a lot of work together so far, reflecting on and discussing the various ways we can build our own, our students, and other adults' SEL and racial literacy skills. Today, we're going to start thinking about how we can turn all of this reflection and self-awareness into actions that can affect change in our communities and our systems. So, welcome. So today we're going to review our topic from last month that we met with our large group, Expanding Awareness. We're going to read our book today, which is Last Stop on Market Street, which reflects on that turning self-awareness into action topic. We'll wonder and reflect about the book, and then we'll review the final topic, Cultivating Hope, which was our topic for the large May meeting, and the final Project SEEKS community of learning. As always, we'll take a moment to just reflect on and review our community norms, as we know how important they are for making a space feel safe and welcoming. Take a moment just to review. And let us know if you bring community norms into your own space after using them in this community of learning. Have they helped you in any way? So, can you believe how much information we've discussed over these last few months? Take a moment to thank yourself for showing up and doing the work. Before we dive into today's topic, let's just briefly review what we've covered so far. In our first session, we talked about the importance of creating a sense of community, particularly across our communities in Allegheny County and the county as a whole, as we all work towards the goal of a thriving, safe, and inclusive space. Think back on your work over these last 6 months. What have you done to create a sense of community? What has someone done for you that made you feel safe and included in your communities? We also discussed building relationships. As teachers and providers in early childhood, you know the importance and value of building strong, nurturing relationships in your environments. This trust and authenticity provides a foundation for success. When we recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences, we make our relationships stronger and increase wellness for all. We also talked about shifting perspectives, which helps us to create warm, nurturing, safe, inclusive communities where adults and children alike can feel psychologically safe. When we see from each other's perspectives, this helps us see and understand that there are many ways to make sense of the world. Those involved in the various communities of learning within Project SEEKS SES were invited to gather to discuss expanding awareness using the book A Day with No Words and think about that topic. I'll do a bit of a review of what we discussed that day. Then we'll dive into today's topic of turning self-awareness into action. And then we'll talk a little bit about cultivating hope, which is the final topic of Project SEEKS SES on our journey. So as usual, grab your notebook or your notes app on your phone or your tablet or your computer so that you can make some reflections and jot down some notes as we discuss today. So in March, many practitioners, educators, families, and more who are involved in SEEKS were invited to join in for a large in-person meeting. For this meeting, we read and discussed the book A Day with No Words by Tiffany Hammond. In this book, readers meet Aiden, a Black boy with autism who loves spinning barefoot in the grass and loves his mother. Although Aiden does not speak, he communicates in many ways, including using a tablet to share his thoughts. Author and mother Tiffany Hammond paints a picture of the beauty of who Aiden is and the misunderstandings people with autism often face. This story is a call to action to expand our definition of, quote, normal and, quote, right, and to unpack our assumptions and biases and begin the work to advocate for change. So as we think about expanding awareness, whose experiences do we usually consider, and whose do we usually avoid thinking about? The goal is to push ourselves to consider all different ways people experience our schools, our neighborhoods, our programs, our communities. Expanding our awareness allows us to see how we need to change and truly include, value, and celebrate everyone? How might your own practice and relationships change when you consider race, disability, language, immigration, gender, and all identities? We want to think about noticing intersectionality, which is the complex, cumulative way in which the effects of multiple forms of discrimination, like racism, sexism, ableism, and more, combine or overlap or intersect to create unique dynamics and effects. People have many different identities that will impact the way they experience their or our community. What do you notice when we think about reading our books through a racial lens? Racism might have impacted Aiden's story. Maybe we would expand our awareness then to think about Aiden's life with autism. And how do we think ableism can impact someone's story and experience? For Aiden and his mother, like all of us, there are multiple identities that shape their lives. Think about how the intersection of race and ability change the way schools, neighborhoods, and programs would serve Aiden in the story, or any child who comes into the school system. How would it serve them well? Can you think of any examples in your schools that you work in that they look at all various forms of discrimination and how they might overlap? In the story, Aiden's mother was very aware of how her son experienced the world. Even without words, she paid attention to cues and she was able to advocate for him when others weren't paying attention. For example, she noticed when they were at the playground, he wanted to play and celebrated it, even if it was playing differently from the other children. She noticed how other adults at the playground were reacting to him and how he was playing, and she spoke up when they were causing harm. She noticed when a cashier in the story would likely not be used to someone ordering with a tablet, so she modeled it first so it would go more smoothly for Aiden. How can we empower families and support them in this? Further, how can we take the burden off of families to have to constantly be speaking up, informing others of what is right, teaching them about the disability, and more? So from that, we think about the rise to the call for collective action. Ask yourself, whose responsibility is it to address and advocate if you see harm? How would you interrupt problematic comments and actions? How do we know when we have done harm? How would you respond if someone told you that you have done harm? How can we take collective action so that all kids become all of our responsibility? The author Tiffany Hammond describes Aiden's story in her book as this call to action. She wants the story to help people understand stories and understand that other stories are different from our own. This is how we can form connections and become aware of how to show love and acceptance for each other. As we think about this, it's a great segue into our book topic for today, which is using what we learned together and putting it into action. So as a reminder of our definition of social emotional learning for the SEEKS communities of learning, SEL is building brave and healthy relationships with ourselves and others in diverse communities. So as I mentioned, today's core message is turning self-awareness into action. SEL skills can help with finding the positive in any moment, building relationships with others, and using those relationships to work together for change. So let's read. We're going to read Last Stop on Market Street by Matt de la Peña. Every Sunday after church, CJ and his grandma ride the bus across town, but today CJ wonders why they don't own a car like his friend Colby. Each question is met by his grandmother with an encouraging response and helps him see the beauty in the world around them. Last Stop on Market Street Words by Matt de la Peña, and pictures by Christian Robinson. CJ pushed through the church doors, skipped down the steps. The outside air smelled like freedom, but it also smelled like rain, which freckled CJ's shirt and dripped down his nose. He ducked under his Nana's umbrella, saying, "How come we gotta wait for the bus in all this wet?" "Trees get thirsty too," his Nana told him. "Don't you see that big one drinking through a straw?" CJ looked for a long time, but never saw a straw. From the bus stop, he watched water pool on flower petals, watched rain patter against the windshield of a nearby car. His friend Colby climbed in, gave CJ a wave, and drove off with his dad. "Nana, how come we don't got a car?" "Boy, what do we need a car for? We got a bus that breathes fire, and old Mr. Dennis, who always has a trick for you." The bus creaked to a stop in front of them. It sighed and sagged, and the doors swung open. "What's that I see?" Mr. Dennis asked. He pulled a coin from behind CJ's ear and placed it in his palm. Nana laughed her deep laugh and pushed CJ along. They sat right up front. The man across the way was tuning a guitar. An old woman with curlers had butterflies in a jar. Nana gave everyone a great big smile and a good afternoon. She made sure CJ did the same. The bus lurched forward and stopped, lurched forward and stopped. Nana hummed as she knit. "How come we always got to go here after church?" CJ said. "Miguel and Colby never have to go nowhere." "I feel sorry for those boys," she told him. "They'll never get a chance to meet Bobo or the Sunglass Man. And I hear Trixie got herself a brand new hat." CJ stared out the window, feeling sorry for himself. He watched cars zip by on either side, watched a group of boys hop curbs on bikes. A man climbed aboard with a spotted dog. CJ gave up his seat. "How come that man can't see?" "Boy, what do you know about seeing?" Nana told him. "Some people watch the world with their ears." "That's a fact. Their noses, too," the man said, sniffing at the air. "That's a mighty fine perfume you're wearing today, ma'am." Nana squeezed the man's hand and laughed her deep laugh. The two older boys got on next. CJ watched as they moved on by and stood in back. "Sure wish I had one of those," he said. Nana set down her knitting. "What for? You got the real live thing sitting across from you. Why don't you ask the man if he'll play us a song?" CJ didn't have to. The guitar player was already plucking strings and beginning to sing. "To feel the magic of music," the blind man whispered. "I like to close my eyes too." Nana closed hers too. So did CJ and the spotted dog. And in the darkness, the rhythm lifted CJ out of the bus, out of the busy city. He saw sunset colors swirling over crashing waves, saw a family of hawks slicing through the sky, saw the old woman's butterflies dancing free in the light of the moon. CJ's chest grew full, and he was lost in the sound, and the sound gave him the feeling of magic. The song ended, and CJ opened his eyes. Everyone on the bus clapped, even the boys in the back. Nana glanced at the coin in CJ's palm. CJ dropped it into the man's hat. "Last stop on Market Street," Mr. Dennis called. CJ looked around as he stepped off the bus. Crumbling sidewalks and broken down doors, graffiti-tagged windows and boarded-up stores. He reached for his Nana's hand. "How come it's always so dirty over here?" She smiled and pointed to the sky. "Sometimes when you're surrounded by dirt, CJ, you're a better witness for what's beautiful." CJ saw the perfect rainbow arcing over their soup kitchen. He wondered how his Nana always found beautiful wherever he never even thought to look. He looked around, all around them again, at the bus rounding the corner out of sight, and the broken street lamps still lit up bright, and the stray cat shadows moving across the wall. When he spotted their familiar faces in the window, he said, "I'm glad we came." He thought his Nana might laugh, her deep laugh, but she didn't. She patted him on the head and told him, "Me too, CJ. Now come on." The end. So I want to take a pause here and have you think, how did this story make you feel? Nostalgic, sad, hopeful, curious, happy, intrigued, angry, or confused? Take a moment to reflect. Jot down a word or two that seems to match how you're feeling in this moment. And before we move forward, let's take a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth. When we think about this story in the context of SEL, we want to think about, yes, we do have the power to change our responses, our reactions, and our emotions, but we must not forget that systems must also change. Think about the people, like adults and children, feeling safe or comfortable or brave in their spaces. So there is some tension here when we think about social emotional learning and equity. It is a skill to reframe how we view the world, but we should also all have access to all the beauty of the world. It is important to build these skills to get through society, get through struggles, get through things that may not always go as planned, but we don't want to be complacent with the state of injustice and inequity across our communities. SEL can put all the demand on building those skills to get through society, but as I said, we shouldn't be complacent with the state of that injustice. When we think about this story at home and in the classroom, children can ask some really big and tough questions. The way this book talks about class, we see CJ making mistakes, having biases, seeing disparity without venturing into white saviorism. Children can make mistakes and see disparity, and we have the task of helping children understand that. Children as young as 6 months old can recognize differences, even race. We are born with brains that are ready to help us identify groups and understand our surroundings and make sense of our world. It is never too early to start teaching about differences and encouraging open-mindedness, empathy, and understanding different perspectives. Some ideas that we might consider when we're talking about these big, tough topics with children is when they say something that maybe seems like it has a bias behind it or a disparity, you can respond with asking, "Well, what do you mean by that?" A child might be repeating something that they've heard when they're out and about, from their parents, from their teachers, from something on television. So asking them what they mean by their statement or their question can help us understand where that question or statement is coming from. It's okay not to have all the answers. Modeling, saying, "I don't know, let's look into it later," or look into it together, is also a very good skill to model and skill to build in your children. We don't always have the answers all the time, and it's okay to say, "I don't know." Another way we can promote talking about these tough topics is reading stories with different races, classes, ideas, people, and use these communities of learning books that we've been going through as a jumping off point. So when we think about all of the self-awareness we've talked about, all of the reflecting we've done, we want to think about turning that into action. There's intentional cultivation of joy, hope, and empowerment, and those are powerful levers when we think about increasing justice in our communities and well-being for the children and adults in our communities as well. When we think about those things, we think about critical love. Critical love is a profound and ethical commitment to the communities we serve. It is rooted in care, respect, promoting a sense of belonging and liberation, and love that is fundamentally connected to justice. The two cannot be separated. If we aren't well, we cannot serve our students or our communities well. So think about cultivating that joy, hope, and empowerment within yourself as well as across your community, and giving yourself that critical love too. We can also think about fighting against versus fighting for. Fighting for something ignites, sustains, and empowers versus fighting against, feeling like you're up against a wall or pushing something else up against a wall constantly. When we think about using each of these SEL skills to thrive in the face of adversity, we can think about disrupting that adversity. How might we use SEL to disrupt that? Have you ever wondered how some people can be so positive even when they're in difficult situations? SEL skills can help with finding the positive in any moment, building relationships with others, and using those relationships to work together for change. Again, it is never too young to start building those skills and having these conversations. Becoming aware of how you see and interpret the world every day brings opportunities to be frustrated and opportunities to be filled with gratitude. How do we see each moment? Do you tend to notice the positive or the negative in a given moment? Reflect on that. Think about how you move in the world. Do you feel that you tend to notice the positive in a situation or the negative? Write down a few examples. The next time you feel frustrated or disappointed, ask yourself whether there is something about this moment to be grateful for. Where are the positives and how can you savor them too? The way you interpret the world influences the way you feel and the way you connect with others. Although frustrations and negativity are real and they are worth noticing, don't forget to look for the beauty too. Let's think about the last time you smiled at a stranger. This is tough in the age of phones and social media and constant work and busyness. You may always have your head down looking at the next thing you've got to do. But throughout the day, there are opportunities to reach out and connect with others. It can be really easy to miss them. Look around and see who might be open to being seen, appreciated, and reached out to. Dancing along with a musician, saying hello to your bus driver, offering a smile, making an effort to look up from your phone are all great ways to discover the people around you, especially now in the times of post-COVID when we're so used to being isolated and on our own. It's important to start making those connections. Whether you connect with them once or many times, you're making a moment and building a relationship that can enhance both of your lives. And consider in those reflections, the way that you interpret the world influences the way you feel and the way you connect with others. When we think about the systems that we live in our communities, across our country, across the world, there are some SEL skills we can talk about to help survive that oppression. We can also talk about those skills that can help us take action to disrupt sources of oppression. We all have agency over how we show resilience in the face of difficult and unjust circumstances, such as poverty, But we also have the power to work with others to disrupt those circumstances. And if we are not experiencing difficult and unjust circumstances, we have a responsibility to disrupt them too, even more so. Social emotional learning skills can help with both. The most important way that SEL can help is by helping us band together with the other people, building relationships, and finding others who also want to take action. Big changes rarely happen from one person's action. Instead, when we come together, we have a much greater likelihood of making an impact. Look around for other people who might have similar concerns as you do. You might find them in your neighborhood, where you work, a local community organization, or finding a group of people that focuses on the issue you're talking about and you're caring about. Seeking out allies and working together can help you find ways to strengthen your voice, articulate your concerns, and identify actions that you are working towards. Much of what we've discussed in these communities of learning is building relationships, connecting with other people. And that is the most important skill and most important way that SEL can help us take action. In May, we gathered as a large SEEKS community of practice to celebrate all the work we've done to spread and share SEL across Allegheny County during the 2023-2024 school year. The topic was cultivating hope. We are the ones that are building the future, and we have the superpowers we need to do it together. Let's reflect for a moment. Have you ever felt frustrated with our society and wished that it would change? What are some big frustrations within society or your communities that you're wanting to change? Take a moment to reflect and maybe jot down some notes. Well, if you have thought of some things and ways you've felt frustrated with our society, we're in luck. The way that we build our future is to help everyone, including ourselves, recognize our superpowers and figure out how they can contribute to the future that we dream of. Everyone has something important to offer. A bright future is within reach, and envisioning it is a powerful way to cultivate hope. For this topic, we use the book, The Me I Choose to Be. This story has stunning photography. The book, The Me I Choose to Be, talks about what will you choose to be today? The possibilities are endless in this uplifting ode to the power of potential. This book is by the best-selling author, Natasha Anastasia Tarpley, and the images are by Regis and Karen Bethencourt, the team which is behind Creative Soul Photography. Each page of The Me I Choose to Be is an immersive call for self-love that highlights the inherent beauty of all Black and brown children. Do you know what you will choose to be? No matter how old you are, there is still more to discover about yourself. By journaling, talking with trusted friends and family, trying new activities, or reflecting with yourself, you can get to know yourself and your special superpowers. Everyone has them, and as you discover your own, you'll get better at helping children discover their superpowers too. Name them, nurture them, and allow them to come out and make your unique contribution to your community. Take a moment and think about what your superpower is. Maybe you have a lot of empathy. Maybe you have a lot of kindness. Maybe you have a voice that's ready to make change. Maybe you bring joy to every room you walk into. Reflect and write down what your superpower might be. An important part of cultivating hope is envisioning the future that we dream of. Share ideas, make space for others' ideas, and compromise. You might know what you wish the future looked like, but do you know what others are wishing for? Envisioning the future requires the sharing of ideas, making space for those ideas. And if your ideas are different, you can take the time and effort to figure out where there's room for you to work together. Sometimes your differences are non-negotiable, and that's okay. That's where that critical love piece comes in. Regardless, you're in the same community together, and hearing each other out is the first step towards working together. Now that you and others in your community have started reflecting on your superpowers, you have room to share them with each other and know the future you want to build together. It's time to go for it. Building the future together will take time. It will have ups and downs, and it will lead to disagreements. It will also require perseverance. When your community is filled with people with strong relationships, it makes all those challenges much easier to get through and gives you room for celebrations, laughter, joy, and authenticity. In fact, having strong relationships with one another means that everyone can help each other have hope that the future you dream of is possible. And it's happening right before our eyes. All of you have been working so hard together in these communities of learning, building your SE skills, building other adults' SE skills, so that way you can all help foster SE skills in children that we work with. Another moment of reflection. How would you complete this sentence? The Allegheny County we choose to be is... Take a moment here to reflect. And I wanted to share some beautiful words from the group activity at the in-person community of learning meeting we did, where we did fill in this sentence. The Allegheny County we choose to be is supportive, welcoming, kind, diverse, nurturing, accepting, open, ever evolving, loving, equitable, inclusive, and allocating resources to those who need them. Were any of your reflections or responses similar to these topics that were discussed at the COL? As we think about cultivating hope for the Allegheny County we choose to be, let's think about ways that we can get here. Where do you already see these things? Where do you already see kindness? Where do you already see diversity? Where do you already feel loved and welcome? Start there and build from those foundations. Some resources that have information on all the topics that we've discussed over the last months together. You can check out our website, healthychildpit.org, as well as our social media accounts. The Young Dreamers Bookstore is a wonderful resource with all of the books we've discussed in our communities of learning, as well as hundreds and hundreds of other books for young children. Challengingbehaviors.org has great free resources on classroom and behavior management strategies, printables, handouts, visuals, social stories, things for your classroom that can help you have tough conversations like what we've discussed across this school year. Next up, we would love for you to reflect on your experiences with SEEKS and answer the survey with the QR code at the end of the video. All you need to do is point your phone camera at it. And you did it. Celebrate. This is a big win. You've gone through all the videos. We've discussed through many reflections. We've discussed many questions on tough, tense topics that can be hard to think about and reflect on. But it's important for that next step of making Allegheny County the county we choose to be. Here's the QR code. Feel free to pause the video here so that way you can scan this on your camera, on your phone, so that way you can answer your reflection questions. Please feel free to comment on this video if you'd rather respond that way. And thank you. We appreciate all of your participation, all of your questions, your comments, your support throughout this project that we've gone through the 2023-2024 school year. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to email us at healthychild@pitt.edu. Have a wonderful day and enjoy your summer. We look forward to seeing you all in the fall.